reconvening regular session at 7:03. Can we have a roll call, please?
Here.
Here. Present.
Vice President Lee,
Here.
President Tata,
Here.
and Super Steve Plaza.
Here.
There are no changes.
You have your hand up, Trustee Ojovinci?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to pull one item from the agenda. It is item number 12A1.
You'd like to pull it to discuss it?
No, to remove it from the agenda.
You want to make that motion?
We have a motion to.
Motion to remove item 12A1 from the agenda.
We have a second? Hearing none, motion fails.
Another motion. It's a motion to pull it from the agenda for discussion.
I'm sorry?
Pull it from the agenda for discussion.
Second.
Pull it from consent agenda too. Yeah.
Second. Aye.
Okay, with that changed, we have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Aye.
And now on to the approval of minutes.
Move to approve minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 9, report out of closed session. So for item 4A, the board approved a settlement agreement of case number 22-002 by a vote of 4-0. And also for item 4B, the board approved the dismissal of employee number 22-001 by a vote of 4-0. Now, our December student of the month, Ms. Carey.
Make sure I take this out. Terra Nova is proud to present Catalina Hosano as our District Student of the Month for December. Catalina's performance in the Terra Nova community reflects a young woman who is making a lasting impact on her school. Just this year alone, Kat took the initiative to organize and start a new environmental club on campus. As the founder and co-president of the Environmental Alliance Club, she is focused on getting the Terra Nova Garden back up and running for the enjoyment of her fellow students and staff members. Kat is also currently serving as a Tiger Ambassador, Link Leader, Peer Mentor, and a member of the District Student Advisory Council as a student trustee. From those who have seen her in action in these roles, they are all equally impressed by her strong leadership skills. They share that her ability to provide mentorship and support to her peers knows no bounds. In their words, Kat is able to connect with students of all backgrounds and interests by providing an empathetic ear and kind heart. She carries herself with a quiet yet powerful presence that exudes positivity and warmth. Her contributions to Terra Nova also extend to the track and field, as Kat has participated on our cross-country, soccer, and track teams during the past 4 years. According to her cross-country coach, Mr. Williamsey, Catalina is a runner's runner. Just as in the classroom, Kat is dedicated to constant improvement on the course. In AP US History last year, Catalina raced to the top of History Mountain, metaphorically speaking, and as her coach this year, I witnessed her literally run to the top of mountains. In addition to her TN activities, Kat served a summer internship at Golden Gate National Conservancy, where she did habitat restoration, worked in native plant nurseries, and led career and leadership development workshops. She has also worked with eSports, an inclusive sports program serving kids with special needs. She also participates regularly in beach cleanups, does community garden work, volunteered at the food bank during the pandemic, and tutored kindergartners with reading through Zoom. On top of navigating all of these activities, Kat is an exemplary student. She continually exceeds academic expectations by performing at a high level and taking full advantage of our most rigorous course offerings. She has an overall weighted grade point average of 4.222 and has plans to study environmental science in the fall. And wherever she decides to go, they will be lucky to have her. She will most definitely make their campus as lively and positive as she has made ours. Because at her core, Kat is an outstanding student leader. She is humble, unassuming, and very personable. She has a positive attitude in all that she pursues. She is someone who encourages her peers to participate, leading by example and by doing. Those around her describe her positive spirit and energy as radiating and compelling, to where others want to be around her and join in on whatever project she is working on. Kat embodies all that we aspire for our Terra Nova students to be, an exemplary scholar and champion. The Terra Nova community is stronger because of her contributions to our classroom and campus life. So on behalf of the entire Terra Nova faculty and staff, we are proud to have Catalina represent Terra Nova as our district's December Student of the Month.
Congrats.
Catalina, we wanted to say a few words. I know some of us here probably would, but I am just so humbled to read about you because you're so unassuming, and it's true. In the 2 years that I've known you, the words that really spoke out to me were that she has a quiet yet powerful presence, and that's exactly how I felt on Zoom when we would have our Student Advisory Council meetings. You participated by Zoom, but you had a presence. You were a leader, and all the input, all the dialogue that we had, it wasn't easy. It was not easy, but you're someone to listen to, and that you give to your community is amazing. To special needs kids is. I'm not surprised, but I'm so delighted that it fits you. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just really proud to know you. And I know you're going to do great things. And thank you to your family for raising such a great child. And she makes us proud already, but I just know for our district, you're gonna represent us so well out there. And don't be a stranger. Please let us know how you're doing and what you're up to, unless we read it on the news. So. Yes, good things.
Definitely. We know it's good things.
We know it'll be good things. Let's have a picture with the family. Can we do that?
So I'm going to take it for you guys and share it with everyone.
He'll go outside with the family too, maybe. He'll go outside with the family too and take more photos. Just fix your hair good.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm going to follow the family out for some more photos.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Very exciting.
What? Yeah, so wait a second. For A, he moved, she seconded, for A, and all in favor. For B, he moved, she seconded. Andy?
Now we're on to our
Favor.
communications,
Or
our
C
board
was not
report.
an action item.
We'll start with Mr. Chapinski.
Yeah, so it has been an eventful month, given the break that we had. As a teacher, it's good to see that our students are wrapping up the semester in stride. It has been a very eventful return to school, I think, for not only our district, but districts across the Bay Area and, of course, the nation, I'm sure globally. Just navigating a pandemic in the first semester back here in the Bay Area, I think, has been a learning experience in itself. And so it's good to see that our students are continuing on in the sense of not only continuing their work, but translating that into work in the community and responding to the challenges of our society, at their age. And so, and just seeing, the discussions and reflecting on discussions about learning loss and what that means, just being proud of our students in that they've learned something that I think, and have taught things to each other and, of course, the community that no other generation has had maybe the opportunity or the adversity in having to engage. And so seeing that in the classroom and outside the classroom has been impressive. In addition to the fact that many of our students are working and enduring challenges outside of class that they don't talk about all the time, but just honoring the fact that of course, our students and our staff and our community as a whole, as a district community, is responding to that and stepping up to get through this next part of this pandemic. And closing out this year strong is the biggest thing, I think, on my mind as a teacher and as a trustee, and so I just want to state that first. In addition, I know we've had some discussion around access to public meetings, in addition to some of our student trustees having access to participate. In my observation, looking at the different responses across the Bay Area, I know the San Francisco Unified had passed a resolution advancing or promoting, or at least sustaining access through Zoom and some level of equity in terms of participation for not only the public, but public officials and really our district community as a whole. And so looking at those challenges and seeing that reflected on the news, I think it's important to note that whatever we can do in terms of public information, in terms of expanding access to civic engagement, we should be embracing rather than finding ways to distance ourselves from our community and those who want to participate, especially since we've done distance learning with our students and we've been so remote for so long. So hoping that we can find a better way. I did advance the resolution passed by the San Francisco Unified School District last month. I would like to see it on the agenda. I was notified that it was not taken up for our agenda. I will remind and reintroduce that to our board, and I believe that it's something that should be considered, especially moving forward, given the uncertainties of what's next, even in the case of that our students may or may not be filling out forms for exemptions or maybe haven't received their vaccinations yet. And so keeping that in mind with the case of our student trustees, I think is important. Public comments are noted. I do think speaking to that issue particularly is important, especially as public officials. To that effect, I did file a request of my own for a Public Records Act request. I actually simply made a request as a public official to our district to disclose any and all documentation surrounding Westmore Park and the Cerro Del Rey project with regards to the 7-Eleven committee on the surplusing of this Cerro Del Rey parcel, this land, and it was denied by the county council. As disappointing as it is to see that response, given that the county lawyer, the county council, works for every member of this board and district community, I do believe it's still within the public's interest to have access to public information so that we can make informed decisions, ones especially that impact our community in such a heavy way. And I feel like these things are not taken lightly, but these are issues that we should be bringing to light in our meetings and embracing as part of our discourse around public information, civic engagement, and of course, transparency, accountability, and responsibility as public officials, especially at this time. To note on that, that Public Records Act request was denied, but it still stands. If that information is not furnished, it is a pretty egregious act to be committing when withholding information not only from the public, but from a public official who has requested it multiple times. So I will be expecting the information in a timely manner, and I will be looking into whatever documentation in specific should be required. but I also encourage the superintendent and, of course, this board to comply with the law at the state and federal level with regards to freedom of information and public information per the California Public Records Act. To that effect, I also just recently learned that some of our students from Summit Shasta have been told to not go to the community garden, which to me is a bad faith negotiation on what the current standard or the protocol and engagement with the garden has been. The city council has asked the garden be maintained and that it be maintained with public access. That said, there was an article in the San Francisco Chronicle regarding this issue. It's a very important issue. I would encourage everybody to find that article, to look at it online, and to gather more information on this if you haven't been informed yet. It's something that we've debated at length and had dialogue about here in board meetings as well as in the community. I believe our Shasta students have spoken to the issue as well. They were featured in the article, the San Francisco Chronicle, in addition to our gardener here with the community garden, who was featured on the front page. And so hearing that, one, our students are being banned from a public resource, an educational resource, especially students at Shasta Summit who have very little space for recreational or extracurricular activities, to me is alarming. It demonstrates the priorities of whoever's banning our students from this district. I don't know what staff member or what maybe even board member has given direction on that. I certainly did not do that. That garden should be open to the public per prior agreements, and there has been no public change in that agreement that I've been notified of or anybody else I know has. So if students are reporting this to us secondhand, it's another layer of a lack of transparency, and I believe bad faith, just collaboration with the community, communication. I'm sure this will be discussed at the city level, at the county level, and of course, with respect to our students, it's an ongoing discussion that should include them and not exclude them. I believe it sends the exact wrong message to all of our youth and community who have contributed and made this garden beautiful in what it is. That said, bringing to light the fact that Shasta reported that they are using their gym or their other facilities as spaces for education because of COVID and the need for expanded space, I would recommend to our district to be able to provide access here at San Juan del Rey, as was used before to some capacity, just to extend that space for at least some temporary agreement so that they can use the basketball court or some of the facilities here, which our students need, not only in terms of physical education, but in terms of mental health and wellness. Those are assets in our community that are continually used here. They're rented out, but they're also resources that I feel like should be available to our students first and foremost, as this is an educational facility. Beyond that, what I did notice was that on this issue that we have board members who have readily engaged with private corporations, and not just nonprofits, but private corporations who are clearly aligned with the real estate lobby. Not only is that alarming, it poses what I have been concerned with from the beginning, which has been addressed but not fully. And seeing that our superintendent at least was slated to participate, I wasn't sure if this was, this actually happened yesterday, but the Housing Leadership Council, I believe, the HLC, held an event where our superintendent was asked to present or speak or participate in. I will ask that our school district concern itself with public education and not cross those lines, because at a certain point, this poses a very clear conflict of interest, not just of public officials in particular, but of other public resources and public employees who are designated to work in public education, first and foremost. Anything beyond that constitutes a violation of what our budget and our resources are slated for in working for the private interest. I want to make that very clear. Our job as public officials here at the district level, at a high school district level, is designated for public education. Anything beyond that, regardless of what stance people are taking on this issue, I would encourage people to think very carefully along legal lines and, more importantly, ethical lines. Because just because you can do something does not mean that you should. To that effect, I do want to honor and praise the work of our community, the youth who have been strong advocates and very vocal ones in supporting the garden, many of our resources in the community, and in advocating for social justice and environmental justice together, especially as we close out Native American Heritage Month and I think a year of social justice and activism that has highlighted the need to understand these issues in an interdisciplinary way, in an intersectional way that uplifts us and includes everybody instead of excluding people from conversations, decision-making processes, and of course, civic engagement in our community. As we close out 2021, I want to also encourage everybody to take that to heart when our students are putting themselves out there with all the political pressure in our community. To the contrary, because we have teachers, staff, administrators, and community at large who do, I'm sure, feel very, very much under pressure and silenced because of the political pressure around promoting real estate in San Mateo County. I think it's dangerous to do that. I think it's important to understand that we have civil rights and civil liberties. They are protected. They're protected by the law and by social movements that have made gains in the last year and a half that we should be thinking about when we make these decisions. And lastly, I look forward to the California School Board Association's annual education conference, CSBA AEC, this week, in discussing not only these issues, but more. As a teacher, I think it's always helpful to be informed by these processes. I think it's also empowering to see that there are other public officials moving in line with best practices and emerging practices, especially right now. And I'll leave it there, and that's all I have today. Thank you.
Ms. Salahuddin?
Thank you. Thank you for those comments, Trustee Ochipinti. I'm glad you brought up the CSBA conference because there was presentations from other school districts that were doing exactly what we're doing to raise funds for their school districts. So it was nice to be at the CSBA conference in San Diego and find out that we are not alone in using our land as a resource to develop market rate housing in order to raise funds for the district. And we're not even alone in this county. South San Francisco has already done it, and San Mateo Unified is looking to do it alongside us. So we are not unique. We are not the first to do it. We will not be the last to do it. But I am glad that we, as a board, voted to move forward in doing something to try to continue to raise revenue so that we can provide education. So I think everything that we've done and we continue to do is in the best interest of our school district in an attempt to continue to generate revenue so that we can't teach without staff. You know, the core function of the district is to teach, and we cannot do that without staff. So how do we retain staff? If there's another way to raise revenue in the district, Trustee Ochipinti, that you have, we, as a board, we work as a unified body. We'd be more than happy and open to hear any other ideas to raise revenue in the district that you might have for us. Because, just like me, none of us joined the board to become housing developers, but, we're working with the cards that we've been dealt, and one of the resources that we do have in the district is our land. If there's another way that you can find that could raise similar funding, we're all open to hearing any other ideas that you can have, or additional ideas that we can raise money on top of the money that we're hoping to raise with the development of our land. I would also like to talk about unity of purpose, and that as a board, we work under the premise of unity of purpose, in that there is a time to talk and debate on topics, and then we vote. And once we vote, we unify behind that vote. We don't continue to debate the topic because then it gets in the way of doing our work. And as a board, it doesn't matter if you voted for something or you voted against it. If the majority of the board votes to move forward in a direction, that is the direction we all move forward on the board. And, I have been on the other side of votes. We moved forward with a bond in this district that I did not vote for. But what I didn't do is every subsequent board meeting that spent money on that bond raised the issue of why I voted against the bond. We, as a board, decided to vote for the bond, and therefore are united behind the will of the district and the will of the board, as we're supposed to, and as is stated in, most every single training that we're given in CSBA. It's about unity of purpose. And I have seen how important that is because it is exhausting to continue to debate this issue. I would like to talk about other items. I saw you out with, I don't know, members of the organization. I don't know particularly which one, taking care of the altar around the recent shooting. And I know we're looking into doing ethnic studies, and I would like to spend more time on this board talking about ethnic studies. Per your suggestion, which I found was a really good suggestion about getting translation services here, there was an organization that I worked with at CZI that did fantastic, phenomenal translation services that I put in contact with Superintendent Presta, and we're hoping to bring them in. And I would like to spend a significant time talking about how we can integrate them into our board meetings and into other areas, because I agree with you that we need to expand and be as transparent as possible. And we know that we have a significant amount of our students and families and community members who speak different languages. And I really found the way that they go about translation, just their explanation, I'm really excited to have them come in and have you see them, that they spoke about it in a way that I found was really transformational and made me rethink that area. And so I'm thankful for you to bringing that back up, because it reminded me to reach out to that group. I'm really looking into kicking off our equity planning and get the policy in here. I know that we have a unified purpose and a unified goal on policing and what we want to see with police here. So while we're never going to agree on this issue, I would like us to see, there's a lot of things that we do agree on, and I would like us to see if there's a way that we can spend as much time disagreeing on this issue, working on things that we agree on benefit and behalf of the district. That's all.
Thank you. I don't have too much to say. Well said, Trustee Salahuddin. It was really nice to spend some time with my other fellow board members at CSBA last week to connect and network amongst other like-minded trustees and educational staff. So it was really wonderful to be able to do that. I enjoyed my time. I appreciate you all doing the work here every day of the year, regardless of a board meeting or not. And I, again, during this Christmas season, like to be thankful for all of our teachers and staff that do spend their time educating and working for our district. I appreciate you all and hope you all have a restful holiday season. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Lee?
Yeah, it was good to be at the conference last week. I attended a couple of some very good sessions, actually. In fact, I wasn't planning on it, but I figured I should check it out anyway. There was actually one on workforce housing, which was actually, even though we're doing it, and it was fun to tour the building today, and thank you, Ms. Phillips, and to the JHF team for taking us through the building earlier this evening. Fantastic. The building looks fantastic. That 1 2-bedroom unit is just incredible, with pictures with the cabinetry in the bathroom, and the size of that 2-bedroom unit is pretty remarkable. So phenomenal work. Can't wait for this to open this spring. But going back to the workforce housing session, it was interesting to be able to see what other districts are doing, and they specifically spoke. One of the presenters was Berkeley Unified School District, and in fact, they're using a model similar to what we're trying to do with the affordable parcel here at Serramonte Del Rey, where they've gone to using actually a separate developer to develop the workforce housing on a parcel that they've picked right adjacent to their adult education facility. After spending some time looking at 4 possible sites throughout the city of Berkeley that were again on Berkeley Unified grounds. So it was just interesting to see that their process was very similar to ours, but the actual execution of the building is through a methodology that we are looking at for an additional parcel here on this particular site. The other thing is that I attended a couple of sessions on crisis communications and digital tools and communications, and that was actually really good. And I think there's some good information I will pass on to you, Ms. Presta, since I think there are definitely some best practices that were noted there that we can definitely do, and especially in the area of digital communications, which have vastly improved with Director Warden. but there's definitely some things that we can definitely take to another level. So really, really good conference, good to be able to connect with each other as well as with many of our school board colleagues throughout the county as well as throughout the state. That's all I've got.
Yeah, it was a really good conference. I don't know. There are some, I think it was scaled down because there weren't as many topics that you can, a lot of workshops, because there were some that I would look at and they didn't apply to us, and others on mental health. I read through it and I saw the speakers and I thought, well, I think we've got that covered here. So I'm not going to go to that one. But what I do want to, so Trustee Green from Jefferson, he couldn't be here tonight because he couldn't get a ride, but he would like me to read his report. Students are still recovering from the false threat we faced on Monday. Some students report that they had felt unsafe to return to school today, but who can blame them? It was a very traumatic situation that wasted both school and local resources. But quick action from our staff containing a would-be threat and getting our students to safety was the highlight of that event. That is all I have to report. And I do want to thank Ms. Emmendorfer and her staff, the teachers, the classified families, the students, Mr. Orden, Ms. Basuino, Ms. Presta. I got, because I'm on the board, I get the timely reports of what's going on as it happens. But I also had a child there. So I knew she was going to be taken care of. I wasn't worried about that. What I was worried, but not knowing, just that she's out there and we don't know when the kids are going to be able to come back in the classroom and, if it's safe, but I think it was handled really well. Not anything, this is not a perfect situation, of course, but she was traumatized by that. She said it was scary, Mom. It was really scary. We didn't know what was going on, and she did not feel safe enough to go to school today. So this is a mental health day for her, and I suspect for a lot of the students. But I want to thank everyone there for taking care of everyone there and all of us. And with that, I'm going to turn to Ms. Presta.
President Tejada. So I will just sort of add on to your remarks about yesterday and as well as Trustee Green. It's never what we want to have happen, to have a false threat at a high school, have any threat of violence at a high school. And so that's nothing that we want to come to work or come to school and have happen. And I want to really say that I am so thankful and proud of the administrators, the teachers, the staff, the students, everyone. The students reported it to the administration immediately. Ms. Emmendorfer called us immediately. Within minutes, we knew. Ms. Basuino came into my office immediately with Mr. Warden. Ms. Basuino said, would you like me to go down there? And went down there immediately. Honestly, it was all, people were very clear-headed and calm and took care of it. And we made some decisions that were thoughtful and quick because we didn't have a lot of time. The threat gave a time, 11 a.m., 10:08, I think it came through, so there was not a lot of time. And in the end, and I also really want to say, they're not in the room, but very thankful to all the emergency personnel that were there, again, very, very quickly. Ms. Basuino was reporting to me throughout the day And she shared that there were, I think she said there were 11 police cars, there was a sheriff's department, there was an ambulance, there was a fire truck, there was bomb sniffing dogs. I mean, like, from San Mateo, it was like the county came and supported Jefferson High School. And so I would imagine it's completely traumatizing. You know, I mean, that's not what you ever want to have happen. And we have the best possible outcome, which is people were safe. So I'm really grateful for the action of everybody involved. And so, thank you. I also want to just really note that we were at CSBA last week. And I just want to put a shout out so that everybody goes and buys a book by Dr. Victor Rios. He was the keynote speaker on one of the days. He's the author of 6 books, including My Teacher Believes in Me, The Educator's Guide to At-Promise Students. He's the Associate Dean of Social Sciences and a Professor of Sociology at the University of California, Santa Barbara. He started off the conference for us. We saw him first thing in the morning on our first day, and he was amazing. I hope that I was talking with Trustee Salahuddin about trying to get him to the county. He was just really inspirational. I was talking with Dr. Marenko today about him. I've just, I keep referencing his talk. Very inspirational. And so that set us off on a good start. I agree that I think that in the past at CSBA, there have been more sessions that pertain to things that we were interested in. We were kind of positing that because it was pandemic, not as many people were presenting, et cetera. But still, we found some real highlights and made some really good connections. And it was also just really nice to see people, our colleagues from the county, from Jeff Elementary, from really down the county. That was a really nice benefit as well. So it was a nice week, and I will just conclude by saying I was so confident that things were going, that our district was in really good hands with our leadership. Checked in a couple of times, and everything ran very smoothly in my absence, so thank you. And that's it for me.
Ms. Casey, AFT Local 1481 report.
Hi, good evening. I don't have very much to say today. Looking back on yesterday's situation, I'm really happy that our district has so many wellness counselors and social workers and people that care, staff, teachers, and all the other people on campus that are caring for our students. I'm not always popular when I say this, but I used to be at Thornton, and I just saw a student yesterday who, when we were there together, there were some battles between us, She didn't always want to do what I wanted her to do. But when she came back yesterday and got her transcript for the next training she's going to do, she said, I really loved what you all did for me. And I said, well, how about you come back and speak at Career Day, because you're doing home health care, you're doing training for, I can't remember what trade she's going into. I said, the students would love to hear you. She said, I think I will. I'd love to do that because that's what you all did for me. Got me out of my hump, and I was able to come out the other side and do great things. And so the thing that is not so popular is although I'm a math teacher to the heart, math is not my subject or my thing that I'm teaching. I'm teaching students. And so our purpose is to teach students, and sometimes it has nothing to do with math. It's how to be in the world, how to treat each other, and especially after something that happens yesterday, people were taking care of each other. Some people were out there really cold. They didn't have a jacket because they left it, or they didn't have their cell phone. And they were worried, but they took care of each other. And so we need to remember that we are teaching people, and we want them to be better people. So if you can put that in with science, math, art, whatever, you know, that's the main thing, you know, better people. Because learning, we can do the learning. You know, those tests, not that important, but we need to be people to each other. So that was just my little plug for today. Negotiations, official, real hands-on stuff starting tomorrow. A little nervous about that, but I know that we'll be across the table with people, right? People that have hearts, and we'll be in it together. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Monica. I realized when you were speaking that I left out our wellness coordinator, Melissa Ambrose, who was also wonderfully like, what do you need? What can I do to help the situation? Because our wellness counselors at Jefferson were there and also experiencing the trauma. So she went down after school yesterday. She was there all day today. So thank you to her. So I didn't want to be remiss in not mentioning her.
And I do want to add that, you know, when my daughter, she was starting her AP Lit test in class when they were told to evacuate. And so 3 hours later, they went back to the classroom to get their things, and all of the kids said, "What about our test?" And Ms. Rubin said, "Don't worry about that test, you're all getting A's." And they just like, "Ah, thank God." You know?
All right.
Because they've been, I mean, actually stressing about that test for a while.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, it's that human connection. Let's see, so we don't have a COVID-19?
No, there's no report tonight.
All right, so, so I know we pulled item 12A for discussion. So I guess if we want to just follow that, we'll just, let's go ahead to the consent agenda.
Approve consent?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any public comment?
Not tonight.
Okay. So we have pulled, I'm moving around too much on here.
12A1.
Okay, 12A1 for discussion. So that's the Jefferson Elementary School District resolution in support of providing JUHSD stable school funding and improving student education through the Serramonte Del Rey project. So, Mr. Ojapinti, you asked to discuss this?
Yeah, somebody asked to put it on the agenda, so I guess my first question would be, who placed this on our agenda? Oh, I can see that's information, but my question was, who placed it on our agenda for informational?
So when we receive things like this that are information, we have a section now, information and correspondence. So we discussed in agenda planning whether we should put it in the board agenda for information and correspondence. And we made the decision to put it on the agenda.
Please continue. Why did you place it on the agenda?
I think
Because
they
we
answered the
received it from
question. It's an informational, it's a resolution that is about our district. And so I would say any resolution that was about our district, we would put in an information item because it directly discusses our district.
Any resolution that, you mean any resolution that we receive, we're putting on our agenda?
No, that's not what she said.
No, I said any any resolution that has items that discuss our school district that we feel other people should be putting on the agenda.
That you feel other people should, sorry, I didn't catch that.
That we feel that we should communicate out.
Okay, is that the why it was placed on the agenda?
Yeah, a resolution naming our school district was shared with us. And so we're sharing it publicly so that the public knows that there's a resolution about our school district that was passed.
Right, in support of something that the
In
board
support.
voted to approve.
Except that
Yeah.
I did not approve it, so that's actually a misstatement.
No, but
But-
but the board is a body. Just because you didn't vote for it doesn't mean that the
Board as a
board
whole.
didn't, the board voted for it. Just because you individually didn't vote for something doesn't mean the board approved it. It was board approved.
I hear you're saying it's just misleading the way it sounds. You understand?
No,
that?
it's not misleading because that is how you say it. If something passes 3-2, it's still board approved and the board voted for it.
And then it becomes a district initiative.
So,
So it's in support of the district initiative, just like we had posted under information when the Jefferson Council passed a similar resolution, support our initiative.
Okay, thank you for answering that question. My next question is, I've submitted resolutions for agenda items. One of them was regarding public access to our meetings during COVID, and that was denied. So I put something that was directly regarding our district from a board member, part of this school district, that directly affects and would enable more people in our community to participate in our meetings, at least more openly, as I've advocated since we were on Zoom
It did-
during COVID. Excuse me, let me finish.
No, I'm going to clarify something because I am the chair of this body. So was that resolution did not name us?
It did, absolutely did. I have a version of that I offered that actually speaks directly to our district, and I will forward to you again.
It was a resolution that was passed?
We're discussing something that's not on the agenda. We're only supposed to be
Yeah.
discussing JUSD resolution number 21.
You're right, you're absolutely right. You had
What
a
I'm
comment?
asking-
My comment on it is, it's pretty straightforward. This, again, just to bring it all back, for informational purposes, we have shared resolutions from other entities that are in support of us for this particular thing that we have done. And I'm sure there may be other resolutions that may be done for other items that we might do down the road that would be shared under information purposes.
Right.
For such a thing as
Other
Ms.
future
Archipinti may
agenda
have
items,
mentioned,
I will
those are
also
items that are
recommend that we
yet
bring
to
it
be
forward.
voted on by this body or otherwise. So that would be a future agenda item to be discussed later, so.
Yeah, let's bring it back at a future agenda items, your resolution, and we could discuss, bring it forward for a board meeting.
So, may I interject?
Yes.
Trustee Achapinti shared a resolution that was passed by the San Francisco Unified School District and asked that we do a similar resolution. He did ask that. We brought it to agenda planning. President Tejada and Vice President Lee and myself discussed it. What the resolution, we decided not to bring it as a resolution to this body because we had already had several discussions about holding meetings in person. And it was the will of this board to hold in-person meetings. So we didn't bring that. We didn't bring it forward.
So, one of the reasons why I asked this question is, this clearly is something I don't agree with. Reading the resolution, which I do want to discuss, which I pulled for discussion, I would like to know why the language was written as it was. To me, it not only was inaccurate in several places, it was not well thought out, and it
It's
actually.
not our resolution, it's from Jefferson Elementary.
I understand, and it's an item for discussion, which I will be offering discussion, and hopefully everybody else will have a comment on it. But what I'm saying is, and what I'd like to say is, when we put items on our agenda, whether they are for information or for discussion or for action, we should be clear on where our board stands on these issues. And it is important to discuss them as a public body. Do you agree or disagree?
Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
I agree with you, and we know where the board stands on it. The board voted to support the development, and so that's why we are taking any resolution and placing it forward that also shows other district support. We're very clear on where the board stands on it. The board voted to support it.
So, do you understand what I was saying, though? Just, I would repeat my question. Do you understand that it's important to discuss these issues when they're placed on our agenda?
I mean, we're
Understand.
discussing it now.
Okay, so that said, I'll begin. I mean, if anybody has any comments before, I'll wait. I'd like to hear those first. Is there anything
Let's see where you're going with this.
where I'm going with this?
Yeah, so I want to hear you.
Okay, so this I would like to know where this resolution is going. I know that it's in support of something that I do not support, but that this board has voted for as a majority, and that given the Ceremony del Rey project is not final, is not fully approved, and is not cleared every hurdle, because in my mind and by my observation, many in other agencies in the public, it doesn't do justice to our community in terms of environmental law, in terms of cultural resources, in terms of educational resources. And so, as it is an ongoing debate, whether or not this board has approved something, still tells me that when we have an informational item that we should be discussing what the resolution says. So without reading the entire thing, there are a few things that I feel like should be raised to public discussion. The first is this. One, that this resolution is from our partner district, our Jefferson Elementary School District. Some of us have attended that district, some of us have worked with that district. Clearly, this is part of our community, but time and again, we've heard youth in our community who are also alumni, graduates of this district, and families who do not agree with this entirely. So when this comes from the school board, my first question would be, does anybody know what kind of communication the Jefferson Elementary School District Board of Trustees has had with our community prior to making this resolution?
No, and I think you should ask them. They would have the answers for that.
Okay, I will ask
This
them.
is just being shared out on an agenda, published as information. We did not write it. They supported us. They wrote it. If you have questions about it, I suggest you ask them. And Mr. Lee had a question.
Actually, just a comment. I would actually just like this conversation to end and move on to the next item because we're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
This discussion is not going to go anywhere, and I'm really, frankly, tired of Mr. Archipinti's grandstanding on this topic this evening.
Excuse me, I need to follow that before we move forward. I feel like it's disrespectful, Trustee Lee, for you to regard my comments as grandstanding. I'm trying to discuss public information for a purpose of transparency. As President Tejada stated, this item is here for public information. It is a discussion item. If you refuse to participate in the discussion as a board member, I don't know what you're doing here. But I'm here to discuss it.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm the president. I'm gonna have to say, let's move on to the business of the district.
So this is the
This
business of the district. Are you closing the item before I finish, before anybody's? So
I am,
we have
because
at least
there's nothing
another
we-
trustee who has not commented on this, and I would like to discuss this item because I feel like it warrants discussion. I feel like it is divisive.
Well, How does the rest of the board feel?
I'm ready to move on, please.
Let's move on.
Move on.
So my last question is this.
Okay, one last.
It's a statement as well. If items are going to be placed on the agenda of a public entity, high school district, city council, county, state, federal agency, and they're up for discussion, as the president of that board, that governing body, President Tejada, I will encourage you to move in the interest of transparency and accountability. And if you cannot hold discussions in good faith, I will encourage you to reconsider your role on this board in our community, because this is an important topic and it should be discussed. Whether or not it makes people feel comfortable is not the issue. The issue is whether it needs to be discussed, which it clearly does, because people are split on the issue in our community. And I would like to hold that discussion with good faith. Does that make
Right,
sense?
but I think the issue is that what I was speaking to earlier in my board comment is that the board has, it's, people in the community may have divisiveness on the issue, but this body has already decided on what we're doing moving forward. So you're continuing to move against the body is actually causing the division here. We as a board have decided that we want to develop the property, and that, of course, as a board, since you have said that the item has some contention in the public, are going to look for people to support us, and so we can continue to make our case, because the board has decided to move forward. So of course we're going to do this. Of course we're going to present people in support of something that the board wants to move forward. I don't understand your point, actually, in continuing to fight something that the board has already decided.
So I'll answer that quickly. One, no, excuse me, if you don't mind, I would like to respond to Trustee Saladin's question.
I do, but I'm gonna give you a little leeway here, but we gotta move on. Okay?
President Tejada, I'm not asking for permission to respond to an issue. I'm simply informing you that I should be responding to it, and I'm asking you to just follow procedure.
Go ahead.
So firstly, this issue is not settled. It's not fully decided by our board, and it's not going to be fully settled by our board. The city and other agencies have a say in this. That's part of the public process. Secondly, there's language in here that implies some possible conflicts. When it's talking about attracting investments and supporting the value of homes in our district, I have to question where this language is coming from, what's driving it, and why it has a place on our agenda, and understanding that there are very clear lines in how the public process is navigated around land use planning, and I would encourage the board to think along those lines more carefully before making these decisions.
And Trustee Pinti, I think we understand that you don't agree with the decision. Like, that's not the issue. But I do think the bigger issue is that you're saying the board hasn't made the decision. Yes, the board has. What the city council does is a whole different thing. That has nothing to do with what the board decision was. So if you want to be on the city council and litigate it at the city council level, then do that. But as we're here on this board, we have decided to move forward with the Ceremony Del Rey project. So your continued bringing it up and making it seem like the decision isn't final when it's already been decided is causing a lot of derision.
I always say this is just lastly, I wasn't going to put it on the agenda. The first point I made is I didn't bring this up.
Right.
I'm not trying to create division in our community. I'm trying to bring our community together around an actual plan, a community-based plan for Ceremony Del Rey and our Ceremony community. And so that's what I'm
you know
doing. But
what?
this is continuing the division.
Okay, so-
Resolutions like
so
this
the resolution,
are divisive, President Tejada.
That's your opinion, and so now we've got to move on.
Yeah, and it's a valued opinion. I mean, I appreciate the discussion. Thank you.
Yes. Discussion items. So 15A, the board reorganizational meeting. So
You want me to give a little bit of the background? Yeah. so-
back in July 2018, the governor signed AB 2449, which changed the taking office date for school district board members to the second Friday in December. So even though 2021 is not an election year, pursuant to Ed Code 35143, the board reorg meeting has to be held in the 15 days following the second Friday in December. And this year, that window is between December 10 and December 25. So now we're going to discuss mutually agreeable date between the 10th and 25th. I suggest next week. If we could bring out our calendars.
Yeah.
December 14th would be next Tuesday, if we wanted to do it on a Tuesday.
Yeah, December 14th, next Tuesday?
Does that work, you guys?
Again, I'm polling. I just checked. I have two more calendars. to check.
You have two meetings?
I'm checked. I have multiple. There's like school district calendar,
Multiple
work
calendars.
calendar. Hold on. Yeah, no, no.
At the regular time, 7 p.m. or?
So no, I cannot do the 14th. I knew I had something. Okay, hold on. 15th works.
You want to do 6 p.m.? Do you want to do 7 p.m.? What?
6 p.m. Like if we do 6:30, like the 5 and the 6 is tough for me to get over here from the East Bay, and I'm sure for Trustee Pinti as well. So
Is 6:30 okay?
Why don't we just keep it at 7?
Let's just keep it at 7.
Okay.
6. Okay, it's 7.
Either way's fine.
Okay, 7.
December 15th at 7. All right, thank you. Now on to our action items. 16A1, the Jefferson Union High School District revised contract negotiation proposal for the 2021 to 2024 school years. Ms. Lujan. Good evening. Ms. Busuina's listed here, but it's okay.
She's closer.
There's that whole poll issue that you have to navigate.
Good evening, everyone. At a previous board meeting, you approved the negotiations proposal for the 21 through 24 school years. And in meeting with the administrative team, we realized we accidentally left off a couple of articles. So we publicly posted it, informed AFT, and now the revised reopeners are coming before you for consideration. Welcome any questions.
Approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And you're still there. Board Policy 4216, the second read. Hello again. So before you this evening is Board Policy 4216. This is the second read. No changes other than updating the language from 1 year to 6 months to be in alignment with Ed Code for classified employees.
Approve BP 4216.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
COVID-19 pandemic stipend, fall 2021 MOU.
At a previous board meeting, the board approved a MOU to provide AFT members with a COVID-19 pandemic stipend. We would like to extend similar provisions to members of Teamsters, so we've come to an agreement on an MOU to provide Teamsters members a stipend as well.
Motion?
Approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
2021-2022 COVID leave MOU.
Again, at a previous board meeting, what was approved was additional COVID-19 leave provisions that are not covered by workers' compensation or exclusion pay. So we would like to offer the same extension to members of Teamsters as well.
Approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Food service employee salary schedule update side letter.
On January 1st, 2022, minimum wage will increase to $15.53 an hour. So as an immediate fix, what we would like to do is update the salary schedule effective July 1, 2022 to ensure that our nutrition services employees who are at step 1 of range 16 and 17 are actually compensated at minimum wage. Our intention would be to discuss this further when we open negotiations so we square off the salary schedule.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Job description, transportation and facilities rental specialist.
So through collaboration with Associate Superintendent Van Raphorst and Director Peppers, we have re-envisioned a little bit of better way to support the bus garage and maintenance department. And so this is a new job description that will coordinate district transportation, manage facilities rentals, and provide general support to the director. And we would like to create this position to just help provide better support to the department.
Moved.
Second.
Did Ms. Van Raphorst did you have your hand raised?
Well, I did just want to mention that it is, it will not be a posted position. It is a position that's already filled by someone that will then just move into that new position. So I just wanted to clarify that because it sounded a little bit like it was going to be posted.
So that the job description is, they're already doing the job.
That's correct.
So I'm sorry, we had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
A variable term waiver for David Delaney.
Last item for me this evening is a variable term waiver for David Delaney, who is an English teacher who is not quite met the basic skills requirement. So what we would like to do is do a waiver. He has already passed one section of the basic skills requirement, CBEST, and is signed up to take the next 2 sections.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. After Ms. Van Raphorst, the first interim budget report for 2021-2022.
Thank you, President Tata. Good evening, everyone. I would like to be able to look at the, how do I, okay. Don't do anything. There we go. So while we're getting that going here. So, Ed Code requires that we prepare and submit 2 interim financial reports to the CDE and the state superintendent. The first interim report is what's before you today, is based on the activities between July 1st and October 31st. The board is required to certify in one of three ways. Positive certification indicates that we will be able to meet our financial obligations for the remainder of this year, as well as the subsequent next 2 years. And that is the recommendation from me, is that you certify us as positive certification, because the records that are before you show that we will be able to meet our financial obligations. Oops. So, I don't know if I can make this any bigger. Can you guys see it okay?
No, I can see it.
Okay. All right, so I just wanted to highlight a couple of the high-level pieces of information from this report. The one key piece of information is that we are declining in enrollment again. We had leveled off for a while, and then since COVID, just like the rest of the state, we are seeing unexpected enrollment drops. So we are planning, for that. You have previously approved an agreement with a demographer, so we'll have more concrete information going forward. Also, our property tax increase, we did project that we would see a 2% increase in the property taxes, and right now we are seeing estimates closer to 4.5%, and so that does increase the amount of revenue that we have. This graph here shows our historic tax revenue change, and so you can see that 4.5% is in, kind of the average range. I did revise the projections for the coming 2 years to reflect the conversations that we've been having at the County Office of Ed and with the State Assessor's Office to 3% and 3.5%, which are conservative projections. With those projections, then what I always like to share is the gap between our LCFF formula and our property tax revenue. So the LCFF formula is what the state guarantees that we will receive. That's the orange bar. And as a district, we have been in a community-funded status for a few years now, and this gap between the LCFF formula and the tax projections is projected to grow, which means that our safety net is getting further away. I also think that we will see an investment at the state level into the LCFF formula because the state is showing strong economic projections. So these orange bars probably will grow when we see the new governor's budget in January. Some items to point out here. We do have strong reserves here, higher than we typically have, but we are entering into negotiations. So that will be a topic of discussion going forward. I did want to point out that the deficit that's shown in this current year is not a structural deficit. It's because we received COVID relief funds last school year that we're spending this school year, and that's why there is a negative difference between the revenues and expenditures. And then a couple of the changes from when we were at our budget adoption and now the first interim report. I've spoke about the improved tax revenue projections. We have some changes to special ed funding that was increased since the budget was adopted. We also are now required to log ASB funds as district income, and so that's why the local revenue, I know, is crazy. Yeah. And so that's why the local revenue looks higher. And there's an item later to talk about that. Some adjustments in our staffing and carryover funds. And then we were anticipating seeing more students placed out of our district, but it turns out this year we were able to keep a lot of those students, so that has been revised downward. And that is pretty much it. I did want to point out we do still have $250,000 each year budgeted towards the contributions for food service programs, But with the change in the program that everyone eats for free and we're getting reimbursement for all of those meals, I think it's going to be revised downward, but I don't want to do it until we have more data. But right now, we're a lot closer to breaking even than we ever have been, so. That's it. Are there questions?
Very nice.
Good news.
Forward.
Thank you, Tina.
Oh, it is an action item.
Good deficit.
Yeah, we have to, so
It's an
a
action item,
move to
people.
approve the first interim, oh, sorry, did you have a question? I'll move to approve the first interim budget report of 2021, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yay. Thank you. Now for item 16C2, change order number 9.
Thank you. For this item, we're asking the board to approve a change order for J.H. Fitzmaurice on our faculty and staff housing project. The change order extends the contractual completion date by 128 days from November 30th to April 7th, and corresponding costs of $352,000. There were a number of delays at the beginning of this project, primarily due to coordination with Daly City, and it was the beginning of COVID, so that was bumpy. So the amount of the change order is within the planned contingency that we set aside at the district level, so we're still within the overall budget for the project. Ms. Phillips, our Director of Construction, and Mr. Hakimi from JHF are here in case you have any questions.
Questions? Do you have a motion?
Move to approve change order for $352,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 2021-22.
Well, just really quickly though, since he's here, I just want to again say thank you for all of the work that you guys did. I was blown away. I mean, every time I pull into this building to go to a meeting or something, it's been a really rough 2 years. It has been a really rough 2 years, and it has been a highlight of just pulling in and seeing the progress, and now seeing how closely it looks to the renderings. Oh my God, I'm just, and it was such a heavy lift to get this rolling, and we were I remember that the consultant came through and said, you know, I do this presentation all the time, but most school districts don't even move forward with it. They just get as far as it. So to see what we were able to do as one of like the smallest, lowest funded school districts, I'm so proud of us. And thank you for making this like a reality, literally a physical reality. It's just beautiful. Thank you, thank you. Please thank everybody that's worked on it. It's just really. And thank you for staying here. Yeah.
And like when we were at the CSBA conference.
Yeah, you make us rock stars. When we go there, people are like those.
We
Oh, you're
were
from Jefferson.
referenced in
Yeah.
other people's material.
I visited I was in a presentation and our district was listed as a highlight. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, yeah, that's our district.
So, yes,
Pretty amazing.
yes. So thank you, and thank you, Stephanie, as usual. We love
Yes, thank you, Steph.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Resolution 2021-22/9, establishing Fund 8.
Thank you again, President Tejada. This resolution is before you tonight because the state has determined that school districts need to begin reporting student body funds. Rather than these funds being in the general fund where they're confusing and they add to our reserve percentage and all of those different things, it's recommended that we open a new fund for the purpose of tracking our ASB funds. And so I'm recommending that we open Fund 8 for this purpose.
Okay, now I understand this more. I get you. When I read this, I was like, what? Okay, so, yep. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of Educator Effectiveness Grant, Ms. Baca.
Good evening, President Tejada. Good evening, Board. So before you is the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant that outlines the district's proposal and allocating $1,057,516. It's a one-time federal stimulus funds dedicated to the professional learning of teachers, administrators, paraprofessionals, and classified staff that interact with pupils in order to promote educator equity, quality, and effectiveness. So on November 16th, I presented the plan to the board for discussion, and tonight I would like to recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the educator effectiveness plan.
Yeah, just a comment. Thank you for this. Again, just want to highlight, when we're talking about, supporting our students in special education, general education, and using universal design for learning, talking about ethnic studies, and a lot of support from all our educators, our staff, including paraprofessionals. Though it is they are one-time funds. They are immensely and tremendously appreciated. I feel like these are the kind of things that we talk about, having time to do collaboration and build on those things. And I think given the last couple of years and the adversity of all that, the support that we've had at every level in getting funding for this nationally, this is what makes it happen. So thank you for your work in this, of course, and I'm looking forward to what comes of it and what our staff can do with this time and energy and these resources, because yeah, it's not just another grant or something, which they all count, but this, I think, in giving us the lift that we need to move forward through this year, will definitely make an impact. And so I'm looking forward to what's next, and yeah. Second.
Aye.
Well said, Mr.
Mhm.
Consideration of future agenda items?
Yeah, I'd like to reintroduce, I did not see it on the agenda yet, but should be, I think we should list the renaming of our school district and relevant schools with respect to renaming schools, and especially given the impact and the historical inequities of Thomas Jefferson, and of course.
Yes, you had brought that up before, and we do have it on.
So just to discuss that, I agree with you. I think we should rename schools. But I think the way San Francisco did it is a good model to where they got their ethnic studies program in place first, then they renamed schools. Because renaming schools is going to cause contention, and it detracts from the work of ethnic studies. And we all know that ethnic studies is already under attack and all this critical race theory stuff. So it helps to have one singular focus on one and then focus on the next. So I'm wondering, is it okay to prioritize getting ethnic studies on and going and then doing naming?
Thank you for raising the issue. I don't think it's either or issue, though. I think actually, given that it is our centennial and that we are engaged in these issues and have been for years, generations even, ethnic studies, of course, is over 50 years old as a movement. I'm glad it has arrived in many school districts at this point in time, especially here in California. And I think as a school district here in the San Francisco Bay Area, following the examples of, say, San Francisco and other districts in Oakland, we have a lot of ground to cover, catch up on. I don't think this is going to detract from anything. In fact, I think it will help create some momentum and reflection and discussion in our district. It's where I think students, faculty, staff, families in our community can be a part of the discussion in real time, especially right now at this time and in this moment. So I think that momentum actually, it behooves us to get ahead of that and do respect and do justice to that in this moment. I do also want to note that I brought up a land acknowledgement as another agenda item. I will be providing more information on that forthcoming, but I feel like these are discussions that need to happen sooner than later, and there's no need necessarily to put them off, and to trust our community. We're not fragile. We're a strong community. We're a diverse community. We can have these discussions openly. I was going to say not just Thomas Jefferson, but Junipero Serra, who's also a man who inflicted gross harm and conflict and genocide in our communities. And so we're looking at UC Hastings renaming their university here at the law school in San Francisco. This is not something that we should overlook. And in fact, I think we should feel empowered by that moment to move forward.
I think that we can put it on a future agenda item, and we can have the discussion then.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I was just going to say that. I was like, why don't we actually agendize just talking
we-
about what we want to do? Because I think actually politically, we're all in agreement.
Yeah,
You
we
know,
all agree
Like,
that
I
we
think
should
there's
change the school
no,
name.
it's a, like, in that regard, we all agree with you, trustee Achapinti, that I think we all agree. I think it's just all about if people think it should be done right now or when, and so I think we can talk about just agendizing the discussion about when to do
It's definitely
it.
on the list to be
Yeah.
agendized, it's just finding the right
We're-
spot for
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So, yes, we can discuss it then.
Thank
So
you.
it's just confusing. The names, too many Jeffersons that are named around here. It's confusing. I mean, even when we're passing a bond and parcel tax, it's confusing, so we should definitely be talked about.
They don't, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We should all change the name.
Yeah, all right.
So, let's see, is that the only future agenda item? Yeah, okay. So we're going to adjourn tonight's meeting in honor of Linda McDonald, former registrar at Oceana High School. Mrs. McDonald passed away on November 30th, 2021. Mrs. McDonald retired from JUHSD after 30-plus years. During her time at JUHSD, she held various positions, including attendance aide, nursery school coordinator, and registrar at Westmore and Oceana High Schools. Mrs. McDonald is survived by her husband, Robert, who has also been a longtime JUHSD employee, their son, Samuel, daughter-in-law, and 2 grandchildren. We, the Jefferson Union High School District Board of Trustees, send our condolences to Mr. McDonald, family, friends, and host of loved ones. With that, motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second. Aye.
Adjourn at 8:20.